News 4 has reported on the increased enforcement under the Trump administration to arrest and deport undocumented immigrants nationwide. Homeland Security said more than 32,000 migrants were arrested in the administration's first 50 days. Well, tonight we're giving you an up-close look at what it looks like. Investigative reporter Tracy Wilkins and the News 4 I-team recently rode along with ICE in Maryland as they targeted undocumented immigrants ordered to leave the country.
It's mid-morning in Hagerstown, Maryland.
If I tell you not to move, don't move.
Hours after surveillance, ICE agents arrest their intended target.
With immigration, you got a warrant for your arrest.
A 47-year-old man from Venezuela who they say has a history of drug and weapons convictions.
So eventually he did end up leaving his house, and we were able to apprehend him before he took off.
His wife wouldn't open the door.
We don't have any reason to suspect the wife's here illegally.
But this has already been a busy day for ICE's enforcement and removal operations team.
Today we're going to have 3 targets.
Meeting up hours before the sun came up at 4 a.m. at a nearby parking lot with members of Homeland Security Investigations and the ATF.
We look for public safety threats, right? Gang members, sex offenders, felons.
Matthew Elliston, Maryland Field Office Director for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, says their targets have all been ordered deported from an immigration judge. They're using what's called administrative warrants to make the arrest. None have current pending criminal charges. So why the early morning operations?
Most of our targets, work early in the morning. Arresting someone when they're half asleep at 5 o'clock in the morning is less. There's less likelihood that they are going to fight back. We know the targets that we're going after, right? We don't do dragnets. We don't go door to door. That's never something that ICE has done.
But the difference from previous administrations, his team can also make what's called collateral arrests. Undocumented immigrants they come across with no criminal charges.
We're still targeting that worst of the worst person, except now if we come across someone who's standing next to him who's also here illegally, we're going to take that person too.
That happened after agents waited for more than 2 hours near the home of a man from El Salvador. ICE says he's been convicted of DUI and negligent manslaughter. This stakeout is something that could not have been done last year due to a 2011 policy that limited them targeting people near sensitive locations, such as schools or churches. But that policy was rescinded in January by DHS.
This building behind us is a Baptist church. Despite us not doing anything at the church, we wouldn't even be allowed to be parked in a parking lot. Really, anywhere within a 2-block radius of here, we wouldn't be allowed to work.
After pulling him over, they also detained his brother, a collateral arrest.
We also know that his brother was prior deport, so he's been removed from the United States previously.
My family, my kid.
This is a total change and an escalation in how immigrants are being treated.
Attorney Michael Lukens is with Amica Center for Immigrant Rights. It works to help detainees know their rights.
I think what really concerns me is you don't look at someone who was born in the United States who had a criminal background and say, well, they are a criminal forever. Right? You don't label them a criminal and make them a second-class citizen. Why is it okay to do that for an immigrant?
Tensions are definitely much higher.
Amma Frimpong with the immigrant advocacy group CASA says there's a lot of fear right now, especially for families who might lose a parent or breadwinner to deportation.
I see, moms, right, who are trying to console their kids, right, and, trying to tell them that everything will be okay, when truly they don't know whether everything will be okay.
Why are people willing to risk mass deportation, risk being put in detention centers, risk having their family separated? Why?
Because for a lot of people, this is the better life.
I think the real danger here is that immigration advocacy groups are telling people, don't cooperate, don't come to the door, don't stop your vehicle. All of these things that could then lead to criminal prosecutions.
But people do have the right to remain silent. They
Absolutely.
do have the right not to open their door if there isn't a warrant signed by a judge.
Correct. And now the difference is it is a much easier process for us to obtain that warrant signed by a judge.
Elliston says he hears the concerns about ICE, but says his agents are just following the law. During one of the arrests, we watched a woman in a car drive by cursing at his team.
What goes through your mind when that happens?
You know, it's really a lack of education. The average person, no matter where you fall on the political spectrum, if they would stop and say, hey, like, who is this person? Like, why did you guys arrest him? And I'd say, he just did 12 years in prison for, you know, dealing narcotics here in Hagerstown. And, you know, this is not a political issue. This is a public safety issue. The people of Maryland are safer today because of what we did.
Matt Elliston with ICE told us he's constantly fielding calls asking him if agents are doing enforcement or raids at schools. But he says that has not happened in Maryland. He did say ICE agents around the country are seeing more assaults against them from targets. According to him, a 650% increase. I'm Tracy Wilkins with the News for I-Team.
A Maryland family trying to get their loved one back. Her deportation is making international news because of this video we're going to show you. It shows her being dragged last week by people who appear to be officials in Ghana. The woman's attorney says she was deported from the U.S. after living in our area for more than 30 years. NBC News has reported about dozens of deportees being sent to Africa from the U.S. since the summer, part of a new third country deportation program. And as Tracy Wilkins and the News 4 I-Team report tonight, the video is raising questions from her family about how deportees are treated in other countries.
Muhammad Aghali's mom is his best friend. The two bought this home together in Bowie, Maryland, and he's now worried she won't return after being deported earlier this month.
I felt defeated, felt like I failed my mom.
You felt like you failed her?
I felt like I failed her just because I'm really, do anything for my mom.
He says his mom, Rabiatu Kuyate, came to Maryland 30 years ago fleeing Sierra Leone's civil war. Muhammad was born here in the U.S. and says his grandparents joined them here and became citizens. Kuyate never became a citizen, but was a nurse with a work permit and was required to check in with ICE every year. But things quickly changed during her July check-in.
They called her to the back, and they said, yeah, Rabiatu, you have an order of removal, so, yeah, we're detaining you. I mean, my heart just broke.
Did you think that you would see your mother again when they took her that day?
Yes, I was optimistic, I was hoping I'd be able to, see what we could do about getting her released that day.
But he would not see her face-to-face again. After several days, she was moved to an ICE facility in Louisiana, where she was held for months, according to her attorney.
Honestly, I don't think anyone expected her to be detained just because nothing had changed with her circumstances.
Immigration attorney Hannah Bridges represents Kuyate and says while she was held in Louisiana this past September, a judge granted an order saying she could not be sent back to Sierra Leone, where she says her client had been tortured. Bridges says the U.S. immediately began exploring other countries to send her to, which she also tried to fight in court with requests for hearings.
Those requests went unacknowledged.
Are you concerned that her civil rights were violated during this process?
Absolutely.
How so?
She should have been given notice and an opportunity to seek protection from removal to a third country. And the government had multiple opportunities to do this.
Bridges says earlier this month, Kuyate was flown from the U.S. to Ghana, a country she's never been to before.
Hi, Mom.
Muhammad called his mother in Africa while we were with him. She says her wrists and ankles are swollen from being shackled for the 10-hour flight. She said some others had it even worse.
There was another guy on the floor. That guy, they trained him from the head down to the feet. They said, if you don't cooperate with us, that's how we're going to tie you.
Kuyate told the I-Team she and other deportees were sent to a hotel in Ghana. She says she was there for 6 days before this happened. A bus arrived to take her to Sierra Leone, even though an American judge ordered she could not be sent there. Her attorney says she was ultimately sent there anyway, although she resisted.
That's when they dragged me, so they bumped the back of my head.
The I-Team obtained multiple videos of the dragging that were sent to her family. Kuyate believes the people in the green uniforms worked for Ghana's government. These are pictures of some of the injuries she says she sustained after the dragging. The video went viral overseas, and several media outlets in West Africa reported that the Sierra Leone High Commission, which is like its embassy in Ghana, said it's aware of the incident and will investigate. We asked the Ministry of the Interior for Ghana about this. They acknowledged our email, but didn't answer our questions. We received no response from Sierra Leone officials.
I consider America my home. It's like I built relationships there.
Kouyaté says she's safe for now in an undisclosed location in Sierra Leone, as her family sits in the home she owns in Bowie, wondering what her future holds and if she will ever come back again.
Do you feel like the U.S. government has failed your mom?
Yes, 100%.
We reached out to Maryland's ICE for comment several days ago. They asked that we share our videos of the dragging, which we did. They still have not responded to our questions about the case. In September, the U.S. Department of Justice argued in a federal court that it had no power to control how another country treats deportees. It said that Ghana had pledged to the U.S. it wouldn't send the deportees back to their home countries. The United Nations Human Rights Office has called on Ghana to stop deporting people from the U.S. to their home countries if U.S. courts have said it's dangerous for them to return. And with Kouyaté, she was the primary caregiver for both of her parents, her mom and dad. They thought, the whole family thought, when she got on that plane that was headed to Ghana, that she was going to be released and coming home. So everyone involved in this was confused and shocked and just wondering what can be done at this point.
And at this point, is there hope? How are they feeling now?
They're feeling hopeless. And what her son said there about feeling like the country has let his mother down. During COVID, she's a nurse. She's worked in long-term care facilities and also in homes and worked throughout COVID and did so much for the people of this country. And she said she feels like this is her home, and now she's been taken away from her home. She left Sierra Leone and didn't want to, but had to, for her own safety. So this has been a very difficult situation for all involved, but it gave us an opportunity to see what's happening with these third country deportations and just the conditions that people are being flown in. It is, it's definitely an issue.
Just shocking to see that video and then to hear her voice describe what had happened on those flights. Tracy, thank you so much for shedding light on that story for all of us and for the family here too.
The Trump administration says it's making a dent in the million-case backlog in immigration court. At the same time, though, according to union officials, nearly 130 immigration judges have been fired or have left the bench. Congress just approved funding and is advertising for more judges, which has some advocates questioning why so many judges have been removed. Well, tonight, one recently terminated judge from Annandale spoke with investigative reporter Tracy Wilkins and the News 4 I-team about her last day on the job.
It was always a pipe dream of mine to be an immigration judge, but it wasn't one that seemed attainable.
Even as an experienced immigration attorney and Georgetown law professor, Anam Petit questioned if she'd ever become a judge.
EOIR, the Executive Office for Immigration Review, has historically hired people with military backgrounds and former DHS or prosecutor backgrounds. So you would see who they would hire, and you'd look at someone from my background and think that I wouldn't really have a chance.
But that changed for Petit under the Biden administration in September of 2023, when she was accepted in a class of 38 to begin her journey as a judge in the immigration court. No longer a pipe dream.
I considered myself to be a considerate and kind judge, an empathetic judge who applied the law knowledgeably and fairly.
After weeks of intense training, immigration judges have a 2-year probationary period before converting to permanent. Petit says she received strong feedback from her chief judge for meeting or exceeding national standards, rapidly closing cases, remaining impartial and fair. And just as she was settling in.
When did your class and other probationary judges realize something was changing?
So I would say it was in January of 2025 when they let go of an entire class of immigration judges that were waiting for their training.
After President Trump took office, a new trend emerged. Some immigration judges were being terminated, including many on probation like Petit. Some Democratic senators sent a letter to the Department of Justice questioning the firings, expressing concern the decisions were made for political reasons, saying historically most probationary judges become permanent.
Things really started to change in the subsequent months because more probationary judges who had great performance, high completions, and a high level of contribution to EOIR were let go.
Unprecedented situation, what this administration is doing.
Matt Biggs is president of the union that represents immigration judges. He says more than 80 judges have been fired without cause since January 20th. Another 50 took early out offers or involuntarily transferred.
They are purging these judges, and their intent is to replace them. Right now, they're claiming they're going to replace them with JAG lawyers out of the Department of Defense. Can you imagine? Lawyers that have no experience in immigration law, no experience in administrative law, and no experience being judges.
According to the union, the number of immigration judges has dropped to roughly 600 from 700 last year. That's fewer judges handling more than 500,000 new immigration cases added under the Trump administration.
It has sent a chill message across the immigration judge corps, and every single immigration judge doesn't know whether they're going to have a job or not the next day they wake up. They don't know.
Petit says she and other judges circled the day on their calendars near the end of their probationary period in anticipation. Hers was September 9th. And as expected, she says she was sent her termination that Friday, minutes before she had to rule in a case.
I got the email. I stepped out of the courtroom for a moment. I excused myself. I texted my husband. I couldn't even call him because I thought that would just unleash more emotion, and I wanted to get this decision done. And I texted him. I said, I can't really talk, but I got the decision. I'm done. Went back in the courtroom, and hands shaking, voice shaking, I delivered the decision.
What is lost when the court loses judges like you?
They are losing qualified, knowledgeable judges who care about due process, who care about case efficiency and completions.
Her firing came less than 2 months after Congress allocated more funding to hire immigration judges.
I have concerns. I have concerns that they're not going to have the intensive training that I had and other judges had because they're just trying to do things as quickly as possible. And I do worry that due process is what will get pushed to the wayside.
Although she knew for several months that her time may soon be up, she says it didn't make the reality any easier.
I don't know why I was let go. I don't know why the many other exceptional judges who I personally know were let go. We weren't given a reason, and even beyond that, we can't think of a reason because we were all high-performing.
We reached out to the Department of Justice to ask about the terminations, but a spokesperson said they couldn't comment on personnel matters. DOJ did loosen restrictions this summer on what type of experience is necessary to fill in as a temporary immigration judge and says it plans to search for the most qualified candidates, including using some military attorneys to address the backlog.
The way you broke it down, it's stunning, and you can certainly understand the frustration, especially because they went through this intensive training to do this job. While she was on the bench, did she notice that there were more cases under President Trump? And what was the workload for her like?
She described it as nonstop, Sean. She'd said that there was barely any administrative time for them to do the kind of work that judges do when they're not on the bench. She said that they had to work through lunch, hearing 3 cases a day instead of the usual 2. And these are very difficult cases, dealing with everything from infants whose parents have been deported to highly complicated cases. She says she never felt pressure, though, to rule one way or the other, and remains confident in the judges and support staff who are still there in the courts, who she says cares about doing the right thing. But this is, really interesting to hear from inside what it was like getting that email, and to know that there are judges who are walking around immigration court waiting for that day, thinking that this could be my last day. And I asked her, what is that like? Like, how are you all functioning? She said other judges know about this, but they work really hard to make sure that staff and people within the court aren't feeling the weight of that. But she described it as an ominous feeling within the court. So in addition to the drama that's happening before the bench, this drama happening behind the bench as well, as these judges are rapidly being let go.
I can't imagine, like when she said she got the news and she stepped out to text her husband, I can't imagine the pressure that she felt, or what she was feeling, the emotion she was feeling when she went back in to make that final ruling there. So thank you so much. We appreciate you bringing light to this.